Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Today we have a three-man Mark III Churchill platoon. This is the premium Soviet Lend-Lease version of the British Churchill tank. For a long time, this and the premium Tier 5 Matilda were the only two British tanks in World of Tanks. And they're Russian, so British tank fans, this was all you used to have. We've got three of them platooned up here today on the Fjords map. We have Junitos, and the game's being shown from his perspective. We also have 57 Ricardo, and we have Kaiser Jose, usual suspects fan there. So, what can we say about the Mark III Churchill? This tank actually gets an experience coefficient modifier. What do you mean by that, Jingles? Well, you know how premium tanks earn more money. The Churchill 3 earns more experience. My experience record for a match in World of Tanks was actually played using this tank. I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like 2,700 base experience earned in this Tier 5 tank. Of course, this was a very, very long time ago, before the introduction of French tanks into the game. And while the Churchill 3 is still a decent Tier 5 premium, it's definitely been suffering from power creep, because the frontal armour on this thing is anything up to 276mm thick, but only in places. And there have been some very high penetration guns introduced into the kind of matches that this thing will fight since this tank was introduced. We're talking about things like the flak bus with its 88mm gun. And there are a lot of things that this thing will fight that are going to be able to penetrate it, even from the front. That 276mm of armour is only a strip over the upper glacis around the machine gun port. From the front it is a tough tank, even if it's not all the advertised 276mm thick, which would be just ridiculous at Tier 5. Turret front, however, kind of weak. Churchill didn't have a gun mantlet, so if in doubt, and a Churchill's facing you, just aim next to his gun. You will penetrate, and you will do damage. From the side, the Churchill is kind of weak. The side armour, well, it's not that there are weaknesses in the side armour, it's that there are holes in the side armour. There are spots on the side of this tank where there is no armour whatsoever. You can see it on the model. There are actual holes in the armour plating on the side, and you can see the tracks clean through them. You still have to shoot through the tracks, and the chances are you're just going to blow the tracks off, but with a sufficiently high penetration gun, and all you really need is a gun with about 50mm of penetration to fire through the armour holes, and a gun with about 80 to 85mm of penetration just to fire straight through the side armour, and there are plenty of tanks with that kind of penetration around at Tier 5. It's also very, very slow, but it does have a very rapid firing 57mm or 6-pounder gun, which carries a lot of ammunition. You are unlikely to run out in the Churchill 3, but it doesn't have any high explosive. Your only ammunition choices are armour piercing or premium armour piercing, and that's actually quite historically accurate. 6-pounder gun on the Churchill, well, it did have high explosive ammunition, but it was terrible, so it was never issued. Under the right circumstances, however, the Churchill 3 can be an absolute monster, and when I say the right circumstances, I mean when you've got a team of utter incompetence and an enemy team of slightly less incompetent but over-enthusiastic players. Which is exactly what we have here. 2/3 of the team are dead. And, oh, no, there we go, there's another one. 11 of the team are dead before the Churchills have even found anything to shoot at. And they've only managed to kill 3 of the enemies. Although they've just made it 4. So the 3 Churchills and 1 KV-1 are the only tanks left alive on the team. And they have 11 enemy tanks to deal with. Now, of the 3 guys in this Churchill platoon, Junitos, who we're watching from his perspective now, and Kaiser Jose, who already has 2 kills and is driving back to the cap with Junitos, just over on his left-hand side, are the 2 most experienced players. Ricardo 57, not so much. And Ricardo 57 is the guy, if you look at the map, who has stayed to hold the corner to the south on the peninsula against enemy tanks who are around the corner, while these 2 guys, anticipating, because they can read a map as well as anybody else, that the cap is about to come under threat, have headed back to hold off the enemy team. And it's Churchill against Churchill. Donatos has been tracked, but he should win this fight. He's angled, the enemy Churchill isn't. Cursor's jumping around all over the place there. That's actually me trying to flick to the external camera, and he's taking care of the enemy Churchill. And it's all looking good until he gets set on fire from the rear, and that's not good. Marder 38T. Now, he could have used his repair kit to get his engine back up, but the Churchill 3 is so slow that he still wouldn't have been able to get out of there in time before the Marder 38T and the VZ39 behind him had killed him. So Donatos is dead, which is terrible news for the KV-1 and Kaiser Soze in the other Churchill 3, because they're getting shot at from two different sides, and, well, you can only angle your armour in one direction. Kaiser Soze is dead, KV-1's going to be next, and Ricardo 57 is desperately trying to scramble back to help them out, but it's going to be far too little, far too late, because the Churchill is just so slow. Ricardo 57 is now all alone against 7 enemy tanks. And if he has any sense, yep, there we go. He prioritised the Marder 38T. You can pretty much ignore the Panzer 1C. He's going to have to get very, very lucky and or be firing premium ammunition to penetrate him. But the Marder 38T, very, very nasty gun. Easily capable of dealing with the Churchill 3. The VZ39 starts backing up, gets into cover behind the wreck of the KV-1. Meanwhile, enemy artillery is pelting Ricardo all the way across this piece of exposed open ground here. He has to get up and artillery safe and kill that VZ39 as quickly as he possibly can. And that's not very quick at all. Meanwhile, the Panzer 1C trying to do a drive-by and did actually manage to penetrate him with 2 shots. Look at the rate of fire of this 57mm gun though. Oh, some shots coming in from the other side. It's T1 Heavy. Okay. T1 Heavy, 76mm gun, quite nasty. He can penetrate the turret front of the Churchill quite easily. Well, not now he can't, he's dead. Okay, so Ricardo 57 was alone against 7 enemy tanks, now alone against 4, 2 of them artillery. The Panzer 1C, not a huge threat, but that FCM Pak 40 has a very, very nasty gun. And the Panzer 1C could actually indirectly be a pretty serious threat if he just kept Ricardo spotted for the artillery that we know could hit him as he was crossing this open ground. In fact, right here is where artillery was shooting at him. So if that Panzer 1C, and there he is, can just keep him spotted, artillery can finish him off. So what's the Panzer 1C going to do? He's doing alright actually, but this is where he makes a mistake. He tries to brake and disengage. And look at the rate of fire of this 57mm gun. 1, 2, dead. And there's the artillery. Panzer 1C should have... Well, it's a kind of a double-edged sword really, isn't it? Ricardo 57 hugging the rocks there, trying to avoid any further artillery fire. You could argue that if the Panzer 1C had just continued circling him and keeping him spotted for artillery, Ricardo would never have been able to get the turret round fast enough to shoot him. But there's a, well, probably better than even chance that he would have been team killed by friendly artillery when they were shooting at Ricardo, so it's difficult to be too critical of the Panzer 1C's performance. Oh, that's not good. Oh, that is not good at all. Oh, and there's artillery as well. From the front, he's getting penetrated by the FCM Pak 40. And, oh, that one just missed. And you know artillery's going to be aiming up to hit him again. So there it is, there's the artillery shot. Now there's a little bit of a replay bug going on here. It looks like he hasn't used his first aid kit, but he has, because the FCM Pak 40 put a shot through his gun manlet and took his gunner out. So he's used his first aid kit to get his gunner back up. Just before the sexton comes rolling around the corner. Why? I have no idea. And commits suicide by Churchill. However, the one shot that the sexton did manage to get off has knocked out his driver. How fast is the Mark III Churchill with a dead driver? Not very. Not very fast at all. Now, at this point in the game, it's fair to say that Ricardo was sweating just a little bit. He was alone against 7 enemies. He's managed to whittle that down to just 2. And it's probably fair to say, from what Donatos was telling me in the email where he sent this replay in, that there was a spirited exchange going on TeamSpeak. As both Donatos and Kaiser Soze were yelling conflicting instructions to Ricardo 57. Do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. The one thing that they were all agreed on was that it was a very, very bad idea to continue going around that corner, with at least one artillery ranged in and an FCM Pack 40 shooting at him. So poor old Ricardo decided, okay, if I can't head down the gap between the two mountains, then I'll head back down to the southern end of this peninsula. At which point, Kaiser Jose and Donatos started yelling at him, no, 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 you don't want to be going all the way down there. Which doesn't leave him an awful lot of options other than heading back to his own cap circle. And, well, it's going to take him a long time to get there, but it is probably the best place to be. And I'll point to the area on the map that I'm talking about. From here, you've got much, much better chance of actually spotting and being able to intercept either of those two remaining tanks on the enemy team. But it's going to take him time to get there. So while he's having a leisurely Sunday afternoon stroll, I just want to draw your attention to something that happened in chat earlier that you may or may not have missed. It wouldn't be a game of World of Tanks if there wasn't a crying rage kid on the team, and today it's the SU-85B who thinks that his entire team are a bunch of monkey noobs and they should all die, which are bold words indeed coming from somebody who hasn't killed anything, was one of the first to die, and has only done 320 damage in this battle. But he doesn't care. He's an arsehole and he wants everybody to know it, so he's typing his rant into all battle chat, not just confining it to his team. He wants the enemy team to know what a massive cock goblet he is as well. I actually had legal action threatened quite recently when I outed one of these cock holsters. It was in a World of Warships video, a guy who was raging in chat after getting hit by 5 citadels in a row right at the start of the match, and he actually contacted YouTube and threatened to get my video taken down for invasion of privacy. To which I replied, good luck with that, and I haven't heard anything back from him since. I do love it. I mean, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, but when somebody really loses their shit in chat and just outs themselves right out of the closet as a massive fully fledged arsehole in battle chat during a game of World of Tanks or World of Warships, I mean, poor old Ricardo 57, Donatos and Kaiser Jose, and everybody in this game had to put up with this cock holster, but thanks to the power of YouTube, you know his name, you don't have to put up with him, you can get him added to your ignore lists, so you never have to suffer listening to his bullshit ever in a game of World of Tanks. Just think of it as a community service that's incidental to the whole entertainment value of the video. You're welcome. Meanwhile, Ricardo 57 in the Churchill with the dead driver still crawling around the map with less than 2 minutes to go, still trying to find the FCM Pack 40 and the Guerrilla artillery, and still having no luck whatsoever. Now, there is no way Ricardo is going to make it into the enemy cap in time, but instead what he seems to be doing is trying to attack that FCM 40, but rather than driving down the middle road, oh, there's the Guerrilla. Bingo, he's got him. Now, he will of course have been spotted. And if the FCM Pack 40 was still here, well, this is more or less exactly where he was, so Ricardo would have seen him by now. But you have to ask yourself, why was the Guerrilla sitting there? Because that's a useless position to be sitting in if nobody's spotting for you. Which would suggest that the FCM Pack 40 has headed down the road behind you, Ricardo. There he is. Looks like he was anticipating that Ricardo, and it's not a bad assumption to make, was going to be camping and defending the cap. So he moved down so that if he couldn't kill him, the artillery could finish him off and win the match. And luckily for Ricardo, with his driver knocked out, he was just slow enough to get here in time to take them on one at a time. So that's 2 kills for Donatos in the first Churchill 3. The second Churchill 3, driven by Kaiser Jose, another 2 kills for him. And 8 kills! 8 kills for, and I've just realised I've been getting his name wrong the entire video. It's not Ricardo 57, it's 57 Ricardo. 8 kills for 57 Ricardo in the third and final Churchill 3. Unsurprisingly, that's a crucial contribution for the platoon, as well as a casual, cool-headed, fire for effect, shell-proof Radley Walters medal, duelist, hand of God, high-caliber Top Gun, steel wall, and the very elusive Kolobanov's medal for 57 Ricardo with 1678 damage and 1541 base XP to go with his 11 awards earned in that match. Frankly, I think he's just showing off at this point. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.